My name is Harper. I'm 23 years old, and I'm sitting in a hospital waiting room when my father destroys my entire future with one sentence. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow hospitals always have. My father sits across from me, legs crossed, looking more annoyed than anything else. "We used your college savings on someone more worthy," he says, like he's commenting on the weather. $47,000. 8 years of babysitting, dog walking, retail shifts, closing the coffee shop at midnight and opening it at 5 in the morning. Gone. Spent on my stepsister's breast implants and nose job. Before I can even process the words, before the tears can form, I hear the wheelchair. My grandpa rolls into that waiting room, and his eyes have something in them I've never seen before. Something dark, something dangerous. And he looks at my father and asks one simple question that will change everything. Before we dive into what happened next, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments because this story spans from that hospital waiting room to a courtroom, and I want to know this message is reaching people everywhere who've felt betrayed by the ones who should protect them. Hit that like button if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, and subscribe, because what my grandpa did next was nothing short of brilliant. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment everything I thought I knew about my family shattered like glass. I need to back up so you understand how deep this betrayal goes. When I was 12 years old, my mother died of cancer. It was one of those awful declines where you watch someone you love disappear piece by piece over 18 months. My father was devastated, or at least I thought he was. Within 2 years, Head married Vivian, a real estate agent with perfectly highlighted hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Vivian came with baggage in the form of Sienna, her daughter who was exactly my age, born just 3 months after me. From the moment they moved into our house, the one my mother had decorated with floral curtains and family photos, everything changed. But I was 14 and grieving, and I told myself I should be grateful my father found someone, that I should try to make this blended family work. That's when I started saving for college. My mother had always talked about me going to university, getting out of our small town, becoming something more. Shed wanted to be a teacher before she got sick, and Shed pushed that dream onto me in the best way. So I started working. At 14, I was babysitting for neighbors, walking dogs before school, doing yard work on weekends. When I turned 16 and could legally work retail, I got a job at the clothing store in the mall, then added shifts at a coffee shop. Every single dollar I earned went into a joint savings account with my father because I was underage and couldn't open my own account. He promised me it was safe. He looked me in the eyes, in the kitchen where my mother used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings, and he said, "Harper, this money is for your future. I would never touch it. This is your education, your ticket out." I believed him. God, I believed him. For 8 years, I worked my tail off. I worked during summer breaks when other kids were at the beach. I worked closing shifts on Friday nights when my classmates were at football games and parties. I worked doubles on holidays, missing Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas mornings because someone had to cover the shop. I graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA while working 25 hours a week. I got accepted to the state university with a partial scholarship that would cover about half my tuition. The rest, I thought, would come from my savings. $47,000. I'd counted it, tracked it, watched it grow. It represented every hour I'd chosen work over sleep, every blister on my feet from standing at the register, every time I'd smiled at a rude customer because I needed the tip money. And now, sitting in this hospital waiting room with its magazines from 6 months ago and its smell of antiseptic and anxiety, my father is telling me it's gone. We're here because Sienna just got out of surgery, breast augmentation and a rhinoplasty, a combined procedure that apparently cost $32,000. The rest of my money, my father explains with the emotional investment of someone describing their grocery list, went to the down payment on Sienna's BMW last year and a family vacation to Cancun that I wasn't invited on because someone needed to watch the house. Hez sitting there in his pressed khakis and polo shirt, hair graying at the temples in that distinguished way that makes people trust him, and has justifying theft. "You're smart, Harper," he says, leaning back in the uncomfortable plastic chair. "You'll figure it out. You'll get scholarships or loans or something." But Sienna needed this. She's been so insecure about her appearance, and Vivian and I agreed this would help her confidence. She deserves to feel beautiful. The words hit me like physical blows. Sienna deserves to feel beautiful. What about what I deserve? What about the fact that I earned that money? But before I can form words, before I can do anything but sit there with my mouth open and my world crumbling, I hear the wheelchair. My grandpa Jim, my father's own father, wheels himself through the automatic doors of the waiting room. Has 78 years old, been in that wheelchair for 3 years since a stroke left his left side partially paralyzed. He lives in the guest house attached to my father's property, a small cottage that used to be a pool house before my parents converted it. I bring him breakfast every morning before school or work, and we've always been close. He's the only one who still talks about my mother, who keeps her memory alive. And right now, his face has an expression I've never seen. His jaw is set, his eyes are hard as stones, and when he speaks, his voice cuts through the waiting room like a knife. "What did you just say to my granddaughter?" Grandpa Jim wheels himself right up to my father, positioning his chair between us like a barrier. My father actually rolls his eyes, like Grandpa is an inconvenience, like he's a child interrupting adult conversation. "Dad, this doesn't concern you. This is between me and Harper." But Grandpa doesn't move. "I asked you a question, son. What did you just tell Harper about her college savings?" The tension in the room thickens. A nurse walking by actually pauses, sensing something volatile in the air. My father sighs. That exasperated sigh he uses whenever Grandpa questions him about anything. "I told her we used the money for Sienna's surgery. Sienna is part of this family too, and she needed it more." The way Grandpa's hands tighten on the armrests of his wheelchair, the way his knuckles go white, tells me this conversation is far from over. And something in his eyes, something calculating and cold, tells me that he's been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. And my father has no idea what's about to hit him. The car ride home from the hospital is the longest 30 minutes of my life. My father drives, hands at 10 and 2 like he's taking a driver's test, completely composed. Vivian sits in the passenger seat, checking her phone, occasionally typing with those long acrylic nails that click against the screen. I'm in the back seat, staring out the window at the suburban streets I've known my whole life, watching them blur through tears I refuse to let fall. That's when Vivian decides to twist the knife deeper. She doesn't even look at me when she speaks, just keeps scrolling through what I assume is Facebook or Instagram. "You know, Harper, you should really be grateful we even kept you after your mother died. Plenty of men would have shipped their daughters off to relatives and started fresh. Your father gave you a home." The words hang in the air like poison gas. Grateful. I should be grateful. Let me tell you what I do in this house I should be grateful for. I wake up at 5:30 every single morning and make breakfast for the family. Eggs, toast, bacon, fresh fruit arranged nicely on plates. I pack my father's lunch for his job at the insurance agency. I make sure Vivian's coffee is ready exactly how she likes it, with 2 pumps of vanilla creamer and 1 Splenda. Then I clean the kitchen, load the dishwasher, wipe down the counters. I get myself ready for work or school. Then I take Grandpa his breakfast in the guest house, making sure he has everything he needs for the day. When I get home from my shifts, I cook dinner. Every single night, Vivian doesn't cook. She says it's not her skill set. Sienna certainly doesn't cook. She's usually in her room taking selfies or out with friends spending money that apparently came from my savings account. After dinner, I clean up. I wash the dishes, wipe down the dining table, sweep the floor, take out the trash. Then I do laundry. Everyone's laundry. I separate colors and whites. Use the special detergent for Vivian's delicate work clothes. Make sure Sienna's expensive athletic wear doesn't go in the dryer. I fold everything neatly, put it away in everyone's rooms. On weekends, I clean the bathrooms, vacuum the entire house, dust the furniture, clean the windows. I do the grocery shopping using a list Vivian texts me, making sure to get the organic produce she insists on, and the specific brand of protein bars Sienna eats. I maintain a 3.8 GPA. I work 25 hours a week at the coffee shop, opening shifts and closing shifts, and the occasional double when someone calls in sick. And I do all of this while living in the smallest bedroom in a 4-bedroom house, in what used to be a storage closet before they converted it. Let me paint you a picture of this house. This place I should be grateful for. It's a large suburban home with 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage, and a manicured lawn I also mow. Sienna has the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, with an ensuite bathroom. She has a queen-size bed, a walk-in closet, her own bathroom with a soaking tub. My father and Vivian have the actual master suite on the 1st floor. There are 2 other bedrooms upstairs, normal-sized rooms with closets and windows. I don't have either of those rooms. I have the converted storage closet on the 1st floor, next to the laundry room. My room fits a twin bed, a small dresser, and nothing else. I don't have a closet. I hang my clothes on a tension rod my grandpa installed for me. I share the half bathroom near the kitchen with guests when we have them, which means I'm constantly cleaning it to Vivian's standards. We pull into the driveway, and I see the house with new eyes. This isn't my home. This is a place where I work as unpaid domestic labor while they drain my bank account. We walk inside, and there it is on the refrigerator. The thing I've looked at so many times I stopped really seeing it. The house rules, printed on fancy cardstock and laminated, hanging there with a magnet. Let me read them to you. Rule 1. Harper must ask permission to use the kitchen after 8 p.m., as this is family relaxation time. Rule 2. Harper is responsible for purchasing her own toiletries, feminine products, and any snacks or special food items she wants. Family groceries are for family meals only. Rule 3. Harper's friends are not allowed in the house, as their presence makes Sienna uncomfortable and this is Sienna's safe space. Rule 4. Harper will complete her assigned chores by the posted deadlines or face consequences, including loss of car privileges. Rule 5. Harper will maintain a respectful attitude and tone at all times, remembering that she is a guest in this household. A guest. In the house my mother decorated. In the house where I've lived my entire life. My father enforces every single one of these rules without question. If I'm in the kitchen at 8:15 making myself a sandwich because I worked through dinner, he comes in and tells me to wrap it up. If I accidentally use Sienna's shampoo because I ran out of my own, there's a lecture about respecting other people's property. The one time I had a friend over, my study partner from high school who needed to work on a group project, Sienna complained that she felt invaded and my father banned all future visits. I follow the rules because I have to, because I have nowhere else to go. Because until today, I thought I was saving money to escape. But they took that too. That night, I can't sleep. The walls of my tiny room feel like they're closing in. Around 11 p.m., I give up on sleep and carefully open my door, trying not to make noise. I need water, just water, but it's after 8 and I'm supposed to ask permission. The house is dark except for the light from the living room. As I creep toward the kitchen, I hear voices, my father and Vivian, talking in those low tones people use when they think nobody's listening. I freeze in the hallway, just out of sight, and I listen. We need to get her to move out soon. Vivian is saying, your father is taking up the guest house, but she could get an apartment. She's got that coffee shop job. My father makes a thoughtful sound. She turns 24 in 6 months. Once she's 24, we can legally charge her rent if she stays. I was thinking $1,200 a month, $1,200, for the storage closet, for the privilege of cooking and cleaning and being treated like help. Perfect, Vivian says, and I can hear the smile in her voice. And if she can't pay it, she has to leave. Either way, Sienna can finally have that room for her walk-in closet. She's been begging for more space for her wardrobe. They keep talking, planning out my removal like I'm furniture they want to get rid of. They talk about how they'll present it to me, how they'll frame it as teaching me responsibility and independence. They've been planning this for months. The surgery, taking my money, forcing me out. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. I stand there in the dark hallway of the house where I grew up, where my mother died, where I've worked myself to exhaustion, and I realize I've been nothing but a resource to exploit. My hands are shaking as I pull out my phone, the one I pay for with my own money, and I hit record. I capture the rest of their conversation, every word about charging me rent and taking the guest house from Grandpa, and how happy they'll be when I'm finally gone. It's not much, but it's something. It's proof. And somehow, having that recording makes me feel just a tiny bit less powerless. The next morning, I go through my routine on autopilot. Make breakfast, clean kitchen, take Grandpa his meal. But when I knock on the guest house door with his tray of scrambled eggs and wheat toast, his voice is different, stronger. "Come in, Harper. Close the door behind you. We need to talk." I step into the small living space that Grandpa has made cozy with his old furniture. Photos of Grandma who died when I was little. His collection of mystery novels on every available surface. Has already transferred from his bed to his wheelchair, and has positioned himself at the small dining table where he has papers spread out. "Sit down," he says, and it's not a request. I sit, setting his breakfast in front of him, but he doesn't touch it. "I heard everything at the hospital yesterday," he begins, and his voice has an edge I've never heard before. "Every word your father said about your money. And I've been watching this family deteriorate for 2 years, watching how they treat you. And I'm done staying quiet." He looks at me with those sharp blue eyes that age hasn't dimmed. "I need to know everything about that savings account. I need to see proof of every deposit you made, every statement you have, everything." I tell him I can get it, that I kept all my pay stubs, all my deposit receipts, organized in a box under my bed because I liked seeing proof of my progress. "Good," he says. "Get them. Bring them to me today. Don't let your father see." That afternoon, while everyone is out of the house, I bring Grandpa everything. 8 years of documentation, pay stubs from 6 different jobs, deposit receipts that show my name as the source of funds, bank statements from when I'd get copies printed at the branch, showing the account balance growing. Grandpa spreads it all out on his table and goes through every page with a focus that reminds me he used to be an accountant before he retired. "This is good," he says, making notes on a legal pad. "This proves every dollar in that account came from you. Now I need to tell you something, and you're going to be angry. Angry at your father and angry at me for not telling you sooner." He takes a breath, and I see how hard this is for him. 10 years ago, when your father's business idea looked promising, I gave him $200,000. It was money your grandmother and I had saved, money I could afford to give. But there was a condition, a written agreement that half of any returns on that investment would go into an education fund for you. Your mother knew about it. She and I set it up before she got sick. The idea was that your father would invest wisely, grow the money, and you'd have your college paid for plus a start in life. He slides a folder across the table to me. Inside is a notarized document, signatures and dates and legal language I barely understand, but the key points are clear. $100,000 designated specifically for my education. "Your father never told you about this," Grandpa continues. "He never set up the trust fund like he was supposed to. I kept asking him about it over the years, and he kept saying he was handling it. It was in progress. Don't worry about it. After my stroke, I let it go. I was dealing with physical therapy and learning how to live in this chair, and I trusted my son to do the right thing." His hands clench into fists on the armrests. "I was a fool. Has been stealing from both of us." The betrayal hits me fresh, like a second wave. It's not just my 47,000. It's 100,000 my mother wanted me to have. My father has stolen my entire future, the future my mother and grandfather tried to build for me, and he spent it on his new family. "But here's what your father doesn't know," Grandpa says. And now there's a smile on his face, thin and sharp. "I've been documenting everything for the past 6 months. I knew something was wrong. The way they treat you, the way your father handles my finances, the way money seems to disappear. I've been playing dumber than I am. My stroke affected my left side, but my mind is sharp. So I've been taking pictures, making recordings, keeping notes. Every time your father takes money from my account for household expenses, I document it. Every time Vivian makes a comment about you, I write it down with date and time. I have evidence of financial exploitation. But I can't do this alone. My body won't cooperate. I need your help. I stare at this man who raised my father, who's been quietly building a case while pretending to be more impaired than he is. What do you need me to do? My voice comes out stronger than I feel. First, we need to trace where your money went. We need bank records, credit card statements, proof of the expenditures. Your father keeps all that on his computer in his home office. I need you to access that computer and copy the files. He slides a USB drive across the table. This has software that will copy everything without leaving traces. Can you do it? I think about the rules, about how I'm not allowed in the home office, about how my father would react if he caught me. Then I think about my mother, about 8 years of work, about a future that was stolen from me. Yes, I say, I can do it. Grandpa nods, and for the first time in days, I feel something other than despair. I feel anger, clean and bright and focusing. Your father thinks him a senile old man in a wheelchair. We're going to use that. We're going to get proof, and then we're going to talk to my lawyer. I still have friends in this town, people your father has forgotten about. We're going to make this right, Harper, I promise you. He reaches across the table and takes my hand with his good hand. The right one that still has strength. You are not alone in this. You've never been alone. I'm sorry I didn't act sooner, but I'm acting now. For the first time since the hospital, since my world exploded, I feel something like hope. 3 days later, I get my chance. My father leaves for work, one of his rare days of appointments that will keep him out until evening. Vivian has taken Sienna shopping for new clothes to show off her post-surgery figure. The house is empty except for me. I tell myself this is for my future, for justice, for my mother who can't fight for me anymore. I walk to the home office, a room I'm normally forbidden to enter, and I find the door unlocked. My father got cocky, comfortable in his belief that I'm powerless. His computer is on, just in sleep mode. I move the mouse and the screen lights up, no password required because he's at home. I can't believe how easy this is. My hands are shaking as I insert the USB drive Grandpa gave me. The software loads automatically, a simple interface that asks me which folders to copy. I navigate to Documents and find a folder labeled Family Finances. Inside are spreadsheets, bank statements, credit card bills, everything. I select it all and hit copy. The progress bar appears. 10%, 20%. This is actually working. I start looking through the files while they copy, and what I find makes my stomach turn. My savings account statements, showing 3 massive withdrawals. The dates match exactly with Sienna's car purchase, a $32,000 luxury BMW I remember her getting last fall. Another withdrawal lines up with the cosmetic surgery. The third matches a vacation to Cancun, where they spent $8,000 at an all-inclusive resort while I stayed home and worked double shifts to cover their absence at the coffee shop. I find credit card statements showing thousands of dollars at high-end restaurants, designer clothing stores, a home theater system. All of it funded by money I earned serving coffee and folding clothes. The progress bar hits 75%. I'm almost there. I'm getting evidence that will prove everything. And then I hear the sound that stops my heart. The front door opening. Footsteps in the hallway. Harper, are you home? It's Vivian's voice. They came back early. The progress bar is at 80%. I need 30 more seconds. The footsteps are getting closer. 85%. Harper, I know you're here. Your car is in the driveway. The office door is open. She's going to walk right past and see me. 90%. Come on, come on. The door to the office swings fully open, and Vivian is standing there, shopping bags in her hands, her expression morphing from surprise to suspicion to fury in the span of a heartbeat. What are you doing in here? She drops the bags and crosses the room before I can react, before I can even think to close the laptop. She sees the screen, sees the USB drive, and she snatches it right out of the port. The transfer was at 94%. I was 6% away from getting everything. You little thief, she hisses, holding the USB drive like it's evidence at a crime scene. Breaking into private files, stealing family information. This is illegal. Do you understand what you've done? I find my voice, trying to explain. That's my banking information, my savings account statements. I have a right to see where my money went. But Vivian is already pulling out her phone, already dialing. You have no rights in this house. That account was joint with your father. The money was legally his to use. And now you're committing actual crimes. Hacking into computers, stealing data. She's talking to my father now, her voice high and panicked in that way she has when she wants to seem like the victim. You need to come home right now. Harper broke into your office and was stealing files from your computer. I caught her red-handed. She's out of control. I try to grab the USB drive, but Vivian holds it above her head like we're children fighting over a toy. Give that back. It's not yours. But she just smiles, that cold smile that never reaches her eyes. Nothing in this house is yours, Harper. Not anymore. Maybe it's time you learned that lesson. She walks out of the office, still on the phone with my father, and am left standing there with the computer screen still showing my savings account statements. Proof of the theft right there in black and white, but no way to save it. I try to remember what Grandpa's software was called, whether it left any copies on the computer itself, but I don't know enough about technology. I just know I failed. I had one job and I failed. My father arrives home within 20 minutes, which means he was already on his way or nearby. He storms into the house and finds me in the kitchen, because I didn't know where else to go, what else to do. His face is red, veins standing out on his neck. You invaded our privacy. You broke into my personal computer and tried to steal confidential financial information. Do you understand how serious this is? I could call the police right now and have you arrested. I try to defend myself, try to explain that I was looking for my own banking information, proof of my deposits, but he doesn't want to hear it. You don't get to make demands. You don't get to snoop through our private files. You're acting entitled and ungrateful and, frankly, dangerous. That's when he takes my car keys from the hook by the door, takes my phone right out of my hand, goes to my room and takes my laptop, the cheap one I bought myself with my own money for school. You're grounded, he says, like I'm a child, like I'm not 23 years old. You don't leave this house except for work, and it'll be driving you there and back. No phone, no computer, no car. Maybe some time to think about your behavior will teach you respect. I'm trapped, completely trapped. No way to contact Grandpa, no way to get help, no way to access the internet or my bank account or anything. I'm a prisoner in the house where I grew up, and the people who should protect me are my jailers. That evening, Sienna comes home from wherever she was and parades through the house in her new clothes. She's wearing a low-cut top that shows off the results of the surgery I paid for, designer jeans that probably cost $300, shoes I recognize from a boutique in the mall where I used to work. She sees me washing dishes, because that's still my job even though I'm being punished, and she smirks. Thanks for the donation to the Sienna Beauty Fund, she says, posing in the kitchen doorway. I know you're jealous, but this is what happens when you invest in people with potential. She takes a selfie right there, making sure to get her new profile in the shot, and I hear her captioning it, "Blessed with family who supports my dreams." Later, while I'm folding laundry in the living room because my chores don't stop, I see Sienna's Instagram on the TV where she's casting her phone. Photo after photo of her at expensive restaurants, the ones I've never been able to afford. Pictures at a spa day with Vivian, both of them in white robes with cucumber slices on their eyes. A video at the mall, Sienna coming out of a store with half a dozen bags, thanking her mom for the best shopping spree ever. The comments roll in. Your family is so generous. You're so lucky to have parents who spoil you. Goals. And I'm standing there folding her clothes, expensive athletic wear and cashmere sweaters, watching her celebrate spending my money. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's been bragging about the money for weeks, maybe months. Everyone in her social circle thinks Vivian paid for everything. Nobody knows the truth except us. For 3 days, I'm a prisoner. My father drives me to the coffee shop for my shifts and waits in the parking lot until I'm done. He watches me walk in, watches me clock in, sits in his car reading on his tablet. When my shift ends, he's there waiting, timing me. If I take too long because we're busy or I have to help close, he comes inside and makes a scene about needing to get home. At home, there's now a lock on my door. An outside lock, the kind you'd put on a shed or a storage closet, which I guess is appropriate since that's essentially what my room is. Every night, after I finish my chores and clean up the kitchen, Vivian locks me in. For everyone's safety, she says. Like I'm violent, like I'm a threat. The first night, I think maybe I can handle it. It's degrading and illegal and probably a dozen other things. But I tell myself it's temporary. I'll find a way out. But by the third night, I'm breaking. I can't call anyone. I can't access my bank account to see if there's any money left or what transactions have happened. I can't contact Grandpa to tell him what went wrong. I can't look up tenant rights or financial abuse or anything that might help me. I'm completely cut off. And worse, I'm starting to believe what they're saying. That I'm ungrateful, that I was wrong to look at those files, that I don't deserve better. The fourth night, I break down completely. I'm lying on my twin bed in this closet of a room, and I'm crying so hard I can't breathe. I look at the community college brochures I'd picked up once, thinking maybe I could take classes part-time while working full-time. Even that seems impossible now. How can I pay for community college when they're going to start charging me $1,200 a month in rent? How can I do anything? I think about my mother, about how she had dreams for me, and I feel like I've failed her. I think about all those hours of work, all those times I chose an extra shift over sleep or fun or friends, and it was all for nothing. I get out a piece of paper and I write something I never thought I'd write. I write a goodbye letter to the dreams I had. Goodbye to university. Goodbye to getting out of this town. Goodbye to becoming a teacher like my mother wanted. Goodbye to having my own life. I'm at the lowest point I've ever been when I hear a soft knock on my window. My room is on the ground floor, window facing the side yard. I think maybe I'm imagining it, but it comes again. I get up and carefully pull back the cheap curtain, and there's a face in the darkness. Regina. She's Grandpa's home health aide, a woman in her early 50s who comes 3 times a week to help him with bathing, medications, physical therapy exercises. I've always liked Regina. She has kind eyes and tells stories about growing up in Jamaica and immigrating here in her 20s. But I've never talked to her about anything serious. She motions for me to open the window. I struggle with the old window, but I finally get it up. Regina crouches down so we're at eye level. Your grandpa is worried sick, she whispers. He hasn't heard from you in days. He asked me to check on you, bring you something. She slides an envelope through the window, thin enough to fit under the door gap before they installed the lock. Inside is a phone, one of those cheap prepaid flip phones from the convenience store, and a note in Grandpa's shaky handwriting. Don't give up. Help is coming. Trust Regina. There's a phone number written at the bottom. I look up at Regina, this woman I barely know, and she sees something in my face that makes her reach through the window and squeeze my hand. Baby, I know what you're going through. Different situation, but the same trap. I was in an abusive marriage for 12 years. My ex-husband controlled every dollar, told me I was worthless, locked me in our apartment when he went to work. I thought I'd die there, but I didn't. I got out. I rebuilt my life, and now I help other people. That's what I'm doing here. Your grandpa is a good man, and he has a plan, but he needs you to hold on. She tells me her story in whispers through the window. How she finally escaped with help from a woman's shelter. How she started over with nothing, worked her way through nursing certification programs, built a life for herself. How she met her current husband, a good man who treats her with respect, at a church picnic 5 years after she left her abuser. How she has 2 grown children who are proud of her. You can survive this, she says. And more than survive. You can build something better. But you have to believe you deserve it. She gives me her phone number, tells me to call if I need anything, anything at all. Then she's gone, disappearing into the darkness of the side yard before anyone sees her. I look at the phone in my hands, this lifeline to the outside world, and I feel something I haven't felt in days. Hope. It's small and fragile, but it's there. I charge the phone using a cord I have for my confiscated phone, hiding it under my pillow. That night, I don't write any more goodbye letters. That night, I write a plan. The next day, Regina comes for her scheduled visit with Grandpa. I'm at work, but that evening when I come home, there's a moment when I'm walking to the kitchen, and Regina is walking out of the guest house, and she gives me the slightest nod. Later, after I'm locked in my room, the burner phone buzzes with a text. It's a new number. This is Regina. Call when safe. I wait until midnight, until I'm sure everyone in the house is asleep, and I call. Harper, thank God, Regina says when she answers. Your grandpa has been frantic. He saw them take you in and out for work, saw the way your father watches you. He knew something went wrong with the computer plan. I tell her everything that happened, how I got caught, how they took everything from me. Okay, she says, calm and practical. Okay, we work with this. Your grandpa wants you to know that he's been documenting this too. The way they're treating you now, the lock on your door, the restriction of your movement, that's illegal, you know. You're an adult. They can't imprison you. She pauses. How would you feel about having some help? Real help. Over the next several days, Regina becomes my secret ally. She's been working in this house for 6 months, 3 days a week, 4 hours per day, and she's been watching everything. She tells me things I didn't know she noticed. How Vivian talks to me versus how she talks to Sienna. How my father dismisses anything I say but listens intently to Vivian's opinions. How Sienna treats me like hired help. Regina has seen all of it, and more than that, she's been documenting it at Grandpa's request. She shows me her phone one day when we pass in the hallway, just for a second, and I see folders of photos and notes, evidence. But the real breakthrough comes when Regina tells me about the safe. Vivian has a safe in the master bedroom, one of those small fireproof ones people keep documents and jewelry in. Regina knows the combination because she's seen Vivian open it multiple times, always punching in the same numbers without thinking about who might be watching. Inside that safe, Regina has glimpsed documents, financial papers, account statements. Your grandpa wants to know if you'd be comfortable with me accessing that safe, Regina says carefully. It's legally questionable, I know, but if there's proof in there of where your money went, proof that your father took funds that were specifically designated for you, that changes everything. I think about the ethics of it. Breaking into someone's safe, even if they've stolen from you, seems wrong. But then I think about everything they've done. The years of exploitation, the theft, the imprisonment, the psychological abuse. And I think about how the legal system works, how hard it is to prove financial abuse, how often cases like this come down to, he said, she said. Do it, I tell Regina. Get whatever proof you can. 3 days later, Regina comes to the guest house with her phone full of new photos. She got into the safe during one of her shifts when Vivian was out showing a property and my father was at work and Sienna was at a friend's house. Inside, she found treasure. My original savings account paperwork, showing my name as the primary contributor. A folder of credit card statements with charges highlighted in yellow, Vivian's handwriting noting Harper Fund next to the large purchases. Text message printouts between my father and Vivian where they discuss using Harper's money for Sienna's needs. A handwritten ledger where someone, probably Vivian, tracked exactly which expenses came from which account. It's all there. Proof. Documentation. Evidence that they knew exactly what they were doing. But Regina brings something else too. Someone else. She brings Garrett, and she introduces him as the grandson of Grandpa's oldest friend, a lawyer named Theodore Morrison, who's practiced family law in this town for 40 years. Garrett is 28, a paralegal working in his grandfather's firm, and he's been reviewing my case based on everything Grandpa has told them. He comes to see me during one of my brief windows of freedom, when I'm allowed out of my room to cook dinner, and we talk in the laundry room while I fold clothes. This is messy, legally, Garrett tells me, keeping his voice low. You're over 18, so the rules are different than if you were a minor. But your father had a fiduciary duty to you when he agreed to hold your savings. You can prove every dollar in that account came from you. The fact that he took it without your knowledge or consent, and the documentation your stepmother kept that shows they planned this, that gives us a strong case for financial abuse and conversion of funds. He explains the legal terms in ways I can understand. Conversion means taking someone's property and using it as your own. That's exactly what happened here. The problem, Garrett explains, is that financial abuse cases are hard to prove and take time. We need more evidence. We need my father to admit what he did in a way that can't be disputed. What would really help is if we could get him to confess on record. If he explains in his own words that he took your money deliberately, why he took it, what he used it for, that's gold in court. Judges hate theft, especially parent from child. But they need to hear it directly. He looks at me seriously. How do you feel about confronting him? With your grandpa present, with recording equipment running, it might be our best shot. The thought terrifies me. Confronting my father, the man who's controlled my life for 23 years, who just spent 3 days essentially imprisoning me. But I think about Regina escaping her abuser. I think about my mother who fought cancer with courage even when she knew she was losing. I think about Grandpa in his wheelchair, planning and plotting to get me justice. Tell me what to do, I say. I'll do it. We make a plan. Tomorrow evening, Vivian is taking Sienna to a follow-up appointment with the plastic surgeon, a 2-hour drive to the city. My father will be home alone with me and Grandpa. I'll ask to have a family meeting in the living room. Grandpa will wear a wire, a small recording device that Garrett will provide, hidden in the blanket he keeps over his lap in the wheelchair. Regina will be in the kitchen, close enough to hear everything, serving as a witness. And I'll get my father talking. I'll ask him questions. I'll push him to justify what he did. And hopefully, probably, he'll confess. Because narcissists love to explain why they're right, Garrett coaches me on what to ask, how to keep my father talking, how to redirect if he gets suspicious. Let him justify it. Garrett says, that's what we need. Him explaining why it was okay to steal from you. That night, locked in my room again, I practice what I'll say. I use the burner phone to call Regina, and we role-play the conversation. I'm terrified, but I'm also angry. And anger, I'm learning, can be a kind of courage. The next evening comes too fast and too slow at the same time. I watch from the kitchen window as Vivian's car pulls out of the driveway with Sienna in the passenger seat, both of them dressed nicely for the doctor's appointment. My father is in his recliner in the living room, reading something on his tablet. Grandpa is in the guest house, waiting for my signal. Regina is here, her regular shift, and she's making dinner in the kitchen even though that's usually my job. She insisted, saying she wanted to cook for everyone today, giving me a cover story for why I'm not busy. I take a deep breath and walk into the living room. Dad, can we talk? I'd like Grandpa to be part of the conversation too. My father looks up, annoyed at being interrupted. What's this about, Harper? I'm busy. I force my voice to stay calm. It's about my college fund. I want to understand. Please, just give me a chance to talk, with you and Grandpa both. Something in my tone, maybe the defeat in it, makes him agree. He probably thinks I'm going to apologize. Fine, make it quick. Go get your grandfather. I walk to the guest house and help Grandpa with the final preparations. The wire is hidden under his blanket, a small device with a microphone that will pick up everything in the living room. Garrett assured us it's legal to record in our own home, especially when documenting suspected crimes. Grandpa looks at me with steady eyes. You can do this, sweetheart, just like we practiced. Get him talking. I'll back you up. I wheel him into the house, through the kitchen where Regina gives us an encouraging nod, and into the living room where my father is waiting. I position Grandpa's wheelchair across from the sofa where my father sits. I take a seat in the chair between them. My heart is hammering so hard I'm sure they can hear it. Dad, I want to understand why you took my college money. I'm not trying to fight. I just want to understand. My father sighs, like I'm a particularly slow student. We didn't take it, Harper. We reallocated family resources for where they were needed most. That money was in a joint account. Legally, it was as much mine as yours. He says it so matter-of-factly, like it's obvious. But I earned every dollar. I say, keeping my voice steady like Garrett taught me. Every deposit came from my paychecks. You can see that in the records. And you lived under our roof. My father counters. You ate food we bought, used electricity we paid for, drove a car we insured. That money offset your living expenses. Besides, Sienna needed it more. She has her whole life ahead of her, and she deserves to start it with confidence. There it is. The justification, the ranking of value. But I need more. I need him to say specifically what he used the money for. What about the agreement with Grandpa? I ask, glancing at Grandpa, who nods slightly. What agreement? My father's eyes narrow. The education fund. The money Grandpa gave you 10 years ago that was supposed to be set aside for my college. My father goes very still. How do you know about that? His voice is colder now. Grandpa speaks up, his voice strong and clear. I told her. Because you've been lying to both of us for a decade, son. Where is Harper's education fund? Where's the $100,000 I gave you specifically for her? The room feels electric with tension. My father stands up, pacing now. That money went into investments, into the house, into making sure we had a stable home for the family. You don't understand modern economics, Dad. That money was put to better use than sitting in some account collecting dust. So you admit you never set up the trust fund? Grandpa presses. You took money that was designated for Harper's education and spent it on yourself. My father spins around, and I see something break in him. Maybe it's the stress of keeping up the lies. Maybe it's fury at being questioned. But he starts confessing, his words tumbling out in angry justification. Yes, I spent that money. Because I needed it. Because running a household costs money. Because Vivian deserved a nice house, and Sienna deserved opportunities. Because your granddaughter, he points at me, was never going to amount to anything anyway. She's average, Dad. Average grades, average intelligence, no ambition. Why waste money on someone who's going to end up serving coffee her whole life? The words hurt, but I push through. And my savings account, I ask. The $47,000 I earned myself. My father laughs, actually laughs. That money went where it could do some good. Sienna's surgery, her car, family vacations. Sienna is exceptional. She has potential. She deserves investment. You. He looks at me with something close to contempt. You're not even blood to Vivian. Why should her money, our family money, be wasted on you? There it is. The confession. On tape. In front of witnesses. He took my money deliberately, knowingly, and he used it for Sienna. But he's not done. The floodgates have opened and years of resentment pour out. Your mother died and left us with nothing but medical debt. Nothing. Every penny went to treatments that didn't work, to keeping her comfortable while she died slowly. I was left with a grieving kid and mountains of bills. Vivian saved us. She brought stability and income and a chance at a real family. You've been ungrateful from day one. Every rule we've set, every boundary, you resist. You look at Sienna with jealousy. You make Vivian uncomfortable in her own home. Honestly, the best thing for this family would be if you just left. That's enough. Grandpa's voice cuts through the room like a blade. I've heard enough of your justifications. You've stolen from your own daughter. You've stolen from me. You've abused this girl emotionally and financially for years, and I'm done watching it. My father turns on him. You're senile. You don't know what you're talking about. Nobody is going to take the word of an old man who can't even walk. Grandpa smiles then, a cold smile. I'm sharper than you think, son, and I've been documenting everything for months. Every time you took money from my account without asking. Every time you made Harper work like a servant. every time Vivian and Sienna treated her like trash. I have recordings, photographs, witness statements. That's illegal, my father sputters. You can't record people without their knowledge. Grandpa shakes his head. In our own home? Actually, I can. Especially when documenting suspected elder abuse and child exploitation. He looks toward the kitchen. Garrett, you can come in now. The front door opens, and Garrett walks in with his briefcase. Has been waiting outside, listening on his phone to a live feed of the recording. Behind him is his grandfather, Theodore Morrison, a distinguished man in his 70s with silver hair and a three-piece suit. Garrett. My father looks between all of us, realization dawning. What is this? This is an intervention. Theodore Morrison says in a voice used to command in courtrooms, I'm Garrett's grandfather and Jameis' attorney. On his behalf, I'm serving you with a cease and desist order regarding access to his finances, and a formal demand for accounting of all funds you've managed on his behalf for the past 5 years. Additionally, I'm filing a report with Adult Protective Services regarding suspected financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. He hands my father a folder of papers. And regarding your daughter, we have evidence of financial abuse, conversion of funds, and unlawful restraint. We have recordings of you confessing to taking Harper's money. We have documentation of you locking her in her room and restricting her movement. My father's face goes from red to white. His hands shake as he takes the papers. You can't do this. This is my house. My family. Garrett steps forward. Actually, the house is partly mortgaged with funds from Jameis' account, which means he has a financial interest. Harper is an adult who's been unlawfully imprisoned and financially exploited. And everything you said in the last 15 minutes was recorded with full legal standing. My father looks at me then, really looks at me, and I see something I've never seen before. Fear. Harper, you don't understand. You're being manipulated. Your grandfather is turning you against your own family. You did that yourself, I say quietly. Every time you chose them over me. Every time you let Vivian make rules that applied only to me. Every time you took money I earned and gave it to Sienna. You destroyed this family. Not Grandpa. Not me. You. Regina comes out of the kitchen then, standing beside me. I witnessed this entire conversation. I'll testify to everything I've seen in this house over the past 6 months. The way Harper is treated, the conditions of her room, the labor she's forced to do. All of it. My father tries one more tactic. He grabs his phone and calls the police. I need officers at my home. My father and daughter are threatening me. They've conspired to steal from me. I need help. But when the police arrive 20 minutes later and hear from Theodore Morrison, when they see the legal documents and listen to the recording of my father confessing, when they take statements from Regina and look at the lock on my bedroom door, everything changes. They tell my father that this is a civil matter, that he needs to work it out with lawyers. They suggest strongly that I leave the house for my own safety. They give me information on resources for adult victims of domestic abuse, and they refuse to arrest anyone. As the police leave, Vivian's car pulls into the driveway. She and Sienna walk into chaos. Papers everywhere, Grandpa and Theodore Morrison and Garrett in the living room, me packing a bag in my room with Regina's help. Vivian takes one look at the scene and starts screaming, "What is happening? What have you done?" My father tries to explain, but it comes out confused and angry. Vivian turns on me. "You ungrateful little witch. After everything we've done for you, you're trying to destroy this family with lies. The only lies," Theodore Morrison says calmly, "are the ones you and your husband have been telling. We have evidence of systematic financial abuse. The courts will sort this out, but I suggest you get your own attorney. This is far from over." Sienna starts crying. Those practice tears she's so good at. I knew she was jealous. I knew she hated me. "This is all because I'm prettier now, isn't it? You can't stand that I got the surgery." I look at her, this girl who's my age, who's been given everything while I was given nothing. "This isn't about you, Sienna. This is about money that I earned being stolen. But I hope your new nose and chest were worth $47,000 of someone else's life. I leave that night with 2 bags of clothes and my important documents that Regina helped me gather. I leave the house I grew up in, where my mother lived and died, where I thought I had a family. My father's last words as I walk out the door are, "Don't expect any inheritance. You're dead to this family." Vivian adds, "Sienna was always the better daughter anyway." And Sienna, in a final act of cruelty, records me leaving on her phone. I'll find out later she posted it to social media with the caption, "Drama queen couldn't handle family rules, so she made up lies and ran away. Good riddance." Regina drives me to her apartment, a modest 2-bedroom place in a nice neighborhood. She's already set up the spare room for me with clean sheets and towels. "You're safe here," she tells me. "Your grandpa is paying for your first month while we sort things out legally. After that, we'll figure out rent you can actually afford." I sit on the bed in this stranger's spare room, this woman who barely knew me but chose to help me anyway. And I cry. Not tears of sadness this time. Tears of relief, of exhaustion, of the strange feeling of being free but having nowhere to call home. The next 3 months are a blur of legal proceedings, paperwork, and stress I didn't know humans could endure. Theodore Morrison is worth every penny of whatever Grandpa is paying him. He moves fast, filing motions and demands and formal complaints that keep my father and Vivian scrambling. The first victory comes when a judge orders a full forensic accounting of my savings account. My father has to provide every statement, every transaction, every piece of documentation showing where the money came from and where it went. The evidence is damning. Every single deposit has my name on it as the source. Every withdrawal over $1,000 went to Sienna's car loan, Vivian's credit cards, or that cosmetic surgery. The judge orders my father to repay the full amount plus 3 years of interest. $47,000 becomes $51,000 with the interest calculated. But my father doesn't have that kind of money just sitting around. That's when the payment plan gets established. The judge orders garnishment of his wages, meaning a percentage of every paycheck gets automatically sent to me until the debt is paid. It's not fast, but it's something. The first payment hits my new bank account a week after the court order, $8,000. I stare at the number on my phone screen and cry. But that's just my money. Grandpa's case is bigger and more complex. The forensic accountant hired by Theodore Morrison digs through 5 years of financial records and finds that my father has taken $83,000 from Grandpa's accounts. Some of it was legitimate expenses for Grandpa's care and housing, but most of it wasn't. House payments, vacations, Vivian's real estate business expenses, even Sienna's private school tuition for her senior year. My father was using Grandpa like a personal ATM, and the records prove it. The judge is not pleased. Financial exploitation of an elderly person is a crime, and my father ends up pleading guilty to reduce charges to avoid jail time. He gets 5 years of probation and has to make full restitution to Grandpa as well. The financial pressure breaks my father's marriage. Within 6 weeks of the court orders, Vivian files for divorce. She takes Sienna and moves to Arizona to live near her sister. Just picks up and leaves, abandoning my father to deal with the legal and financial mess alone. Before she goes, she sends me one final text message. "I hope you're proud of yourself. You destroyed a family because you were jealous. Sienna could have had a bright future, but you took that away. Karma will come for you." I block the number and delete the message. Sienna's Instagram, which used to be full of designer clothes and restaurant photos and selfies showing off her surgery results, goes quiet. I find out later through mutual acquaintances that she had complications. The implants became infected and had to be removed. She needs revision surgery that Vivian can't afford now that the money train has stopped. The nose job didn't heal quite right, and she needs another procedure to fix a breathing issue. The girl who was supposed to benefit from all that money ends up scarred and in debt from medical bills. I don't feel satisfaction from this. I just feel sad that so much was destroyed for vanity. My father loses the house. Between the mortgage, the restitution payments, and losing Vivian's income, he can't afford it anymore. The house where I grew up, where my mother decorated every room with love, where I thought I had a family, goes into foreclosure. My father moves to a small apartment on the outskirts of town, and I never visit him. He sends me one text message 3 months after I leave. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Everything that happens to Sienna now is on you. She was innocent in all this. And you've ruined her life because you couldn't just be grateful. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say to him. But the legal battles take their toll on me too. This is the 6th major attack, though this time it's more subtle. The stress of court dates and lawyer meetings while trying to maintain my job and plan for school. The anxiety of seeing my father across a courtroom, listening to his lawyer try to paint me as a manipulative child who turned against her family. The nightmares about being locked in that room again. The therapy bills that pile up because I can't process this trauma alone. My first semester at university, which I finally get to start with the restitution money, is harder than it should be because I'm carrying this weight. There are moments when I wonder if it was worth it. Moments when I think maybe I should have just accepted the loss, moved on, kept the peace. The doubt creeps in during the dark hours of the night when I can't sleep. What if they're right? What if I'm the ungrateful one? What if I destroyed a family over money? But then I talk to my therapist, or to Regina, or to Grandpa, and they remind me of the truth. You can't destroy what was never real. A family built on exploitation and favoritism and conditional love was never a real family. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped participating in my own abuse. By the time fall arrives and I'm 3 months into my first semester at State University, the legal dust has mostly settled. The final court date brings closure. The judge finalizes the restitution orders, makes the payment plans official, and issues a restraining order at my request that prevents my father from contacting me directly. It's not what I wanted. I wanted a real father who loved me. But at least now I have legal protection and financial recovery. The money comes in slowly but steadily. By the end of the first year, I've received almost $20,000 in restitution payments. Combined with my partial scholarship and a work-study job at the campus library, I can afford tuition, books, and my share of rent with Regina. I'm not rich. I'm still working part-time, still budgeting carefully, still shopping at thrift stores and cooking at home. But I'm free. That's worth more than any amount of money. The university experience is everything I hoped it would be, and nothing like I expected. I make friends in my first semester classes, real friends who don't know my history unless I choose to tell them. There's Maya, who's studying psychology and comes from a similar background of family dysfunction. There's Jade, a first-generation college student whose parents are immigrants who worked 3 jobs to send her here. There's Brooklyn, who was in foster care and aged out of the system at 18. We form a study group that becomes a support group, 4 young women who understand that college is harder when you're carrying trauma and working to pay your own way. We meet at the library every Tuesday and Thursday evening. We quiz each other for exams, edit each other's papers, and talk about the families we came from and the lives we're building. I start therapy through the University Counseling Center. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, introduces me to concepts I've never heard before. Narcissistic family systems, the golden child and scapegoat dynamic, financial abuse, gaslighting, parentification, which is what happens when a child is forced to take on adult responsibilities. Trauma bonding. Each session is like putting on glasses for the first time and realizing you've been seeing the world blurry. I had vocabulary now for what happened to me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't ungrateful. I was abused. Understanding this, really understanding it, begins to heal something deep inside. Dr. Reeves recommends a support group for adult children of narcissistic parents. I go to my first meeting terrified that I won't belong, that my story won't be bad enough. But I walk into that church basement on a Wednesday evening and hear stories that mirror mine so closely it's eerie. Different details, but the same patterns. Parents who played favorites, siblings who were elevated while others were diminished. Money and resources used as tools of control. Children who worked hard and achieved things only to have their accomplishments minimized or stolen. I realize I'm not alone. There are dozens of us just in this small town, hundreds probably in the state, thousands across the country. We're all survivors of families that looked normal from the outside but were toxic on the inside. My grades that first semester are excellent. I get a 3.9 GPA, making the dean's list. When I see my name on that list posted in the student center, I stand there and cry. This is mine. I earned this. Nobody can take it away. I declare my major, social work. I want to help people like me. Kids aging out of foster care, teenagers in abusive homes, young adults trying to break free from family dysfunction. I want to be the person who sees them, who believes them, who helps them navigate the systems that are supposed to protect them but often fail. Grandpa's health actually improves once the stress of the situation decreases. The constant worry about me and the anger at my father were taking a physical toll. With that resolved, with him living in a nice assisted living facility that he chose himself, he seems younger somehow. I visit him twice a week, usually on Tuesday afternoon when I don't have classes and on Sunday morning before work. We play cards, watch old movies, and talk about my mother. He tells me stories I've never heard before. How my mother was valedictorian of her high school. How she won a full scholarship to college but had to turn it down because her own mother got sick and she needed to work. How she always regretted not getting her degree and was determined I would have that chance. "She'd be so proud of you," Grandpa tells me one Sunday, squeezing my hand with his good hand. "Not just for fighting back, for surviving, for building something new. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner," he says another time, and I hear the guilt in his voice. "I should have protected you. I should have stood up to your father years ago." I shake my head. "You were dealing with your own health issues, and you did protect me. When it mattered most, you saw what was happening and you helped me escape. You saved me, Grandpa." We sit together in comfortable silence, and I realize this is what family should feel like. Safe, supportive, loving without conditions. Regina becomes like an aunt to me. She teaches me how to cook Jamaican food, recipes passed down from her grandmother. We make curry goat and jerk chicken and festival, which is a sweet fried bread that becomes my favorite thing. She teaches me about boundaries, about saying no, about recognizing red flags in relationships before they become dangerous. She tells me more about her own journey, the years of therapy and healing it took before she could trust again. "You're starting that healing younger than I did," she says while we're making dinner one evening. "That's good. You have so much life ahead of you. Don't waste it carrying their poison." I see Garrett occasionally, usually when there's a legal matter to discuss or papers to sign. He's professional but friendly, and he always asks how school is going. One day, when I'm particularly stressed about a research paper, he offers to proofread it since his undergraduate degree was in English. We end up spending an evening at a coffee shop, him giving me feedback on my paper, and me telling him about my dream of becoming a social worker. "You're going to be great at it," he says. "You have empathy and strength. That combination is rare." I blush and change the subject, but later I think about how different he is from the men in my family. Kind without expectation, helpful without keeping score. Maybe someday I'll be ready to trust someone like that. Not now, but someday. My father sends me one text message 6 months after I move out. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Everything I worked for is gone because you were selfish." I stare at the message for a long time. Part of me wants to respond, wants to defend myself, wants to make him understand. But I realize he'll never understand. In his mind, he's the victim, I'm the villain. Nothing I say will change that. So I block his number and I let it go. Not forgiveness, exactly, but release. He doesn't get to live in my head anymore. He doesn't get to define my worth or my future. I'm taking that power back. One evening in late fall, I'm working a shift at the campus coffee shop where I have a work-study position. A student comes in, clearly stressed, and orders a complicated drink. While I'm making it, she starts talking, half to me and half to herself. I don't know what to do. My stepdad is demanding I pay him back for my senior year of high school. Says I owe him for room and board, but I worked part-time and gave him money every week. He's threatening to kick me out if I don't pay. I stop making the drink and really look at her. She's probably 19, with exhausted eyes and hands that shake slightly. You don't owe him anything, I say firmly. What he's doing is financial abuse. You're allowed to exist without being in debt to your parents. She looks at me, surprised. But he says family helps each other. That I'm ungrateful. I finish her drink and slide it across the counter. Listen to me. Family helps each other without keeping score. Real family doesn't exploit you and then call you ungrateful when you object. You're not the problem. The system that allows parents to abuse their kids financially is the problem. I give her the number for university counseling services and for Theodore Morrison's law office. Talk to someone. Get help. You deserve better. She leaves with tears in her eyes and a small smile. My coworker, another student who's been listening, looks at me curiously. You sound like you've been through something. I nod. I have, and I survived it. That's why I know she can too. That night, as I'm closing up the coffee shop and walking back to Regina's apartment under the streetlights, I think about my journey. From that hospital waiting room where my world shattered, to a courtroom where I got justice, to this campus where I'm building a future. It hasn't been easy. There have been days when I wanted to give up, when the weight of it all felt too heavy. But I didn't give up. I'm here. I'm 24 years old now, 1 year older than I was when this nightmare started. I have a 3.9 GPA. I have friends who understand me. I have a grandfather who fought for me. I have allies like Regina and Garrett and Theodore Morrison who believed me when my own father didn't. I have a future that I'm building with my own hands, bought with my own money, earned through my own work. Nobody can take that away from me. I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who share your DNA are the ones who hurt you most. And sometimes the people who become your family are the ones who choose to love you, support you, and fight for you when it matters. My real family is Grandpa and Regina, and my support group and my study group. My real family is the people who see my worth without me having to prove it every single day. I learned that I'm worthy, not because I'm perfect or because I achieved some arbitrary standard, just because I exist. I was always worthy. The problem was never me. The problem was people who couldn't or wouldn't see it, and that's on them, not on me. I don't have to carry their blindness anymore. I learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I feel strong and confident and proud of how far I've come. Other days I cry in the shower because something small triggered a memory. Both are okay. Both are part of the process. I'm not racing to some finish line where I'll be magically healed. I'm just walking forward, one step at a time, doing the work. As I unlock the door to Regina's apartment, our apartment now since I'm a full resident and not just a guest, I think about that moment in the hospital waiting room. The moment when my father told me I wasn't worthy of my own money. The moment when Grandpa wheeled in and asked that question I never heard the end of because everything exploded. I finally know what Grandpa asked. He asked, "Who are you to decide who's worthy?" And my father had no answer. Because the truth is, he wasn't the one who got to decide. I was worthy all along. I just had to fight to prove it, not to them, but to myself. So if you're watching this, and you're in a situation like I was, let me tell you something. You are worthy. You deserve safety and respect, and the money you earn. You deserve a family that lifts you up instead of tearing you down. And if you don't have that family, you can build a new one. It won't be easy. It will hurt like nothing else. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. On the other side is a life that belongs to you. And that life, that freedom, is worth fighting for. I'm living proof. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who exploited you? Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Drop your story in the comments because I want you to know you're not alone. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. If you've been the scapegoat in your family. If you've had to fight for what was rightfully yours. Subscribe to this channel because we're going to keep sharing stories of people who survived family trauma and came out stronger. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're worthy, that they deserve better, that there's hope on the other side of abuse. Thank you for watching my story. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for being part of the community that says financial abuse is real and survivors deserve justice. I'm sending you all strength and hope wherever you are in your journey. You've got this, and you're worthy. Always remember that.